Hi, my name is Ashley Sprandall, and the article I chose to critique today is called Where Abolition Meets Action, Women Organizing Against Gender Violence. It was written by Vicky Law. Let's get started. Keeping in mind the massive problems that result from prisons, such as mass incarceration and police brutality, Law seeks to examine past and present instances of women organizing to create community self-defense practices that empower women to fight back against gender violence while protecting themselves and other state-based policing in prisons. In this article, Law states that connecting past efforts and current initiatives allows us to both envision a future in which police and prisons are not the sole solutions to gender violence, and to know that such possibilities can, and in some small pockets do or did exist. These possibilities promote safety and accountability for women across the globe. Law brings to light examples from the past. Women's liberation movements of the 1970s, such as Cell 16, a group studying Taekwondo that patrolled the streets and accompanied women to their cars or public transport late at night. Bon Shen, a group from Germany that, instead of establishing a shelter for battered women, the group would aid battered women in confronting her abuser, forcing the abuser out of the house, and guarding the residents for further protection. And the Green Light Program provided identifiable safe houses from women who were threatened or assaulted on the streets by having a green light bulb as a porch light. Though there is legislation that addresses the issue of gender violence, it often does very little to protect women who are politically, economically, or socially marginalized. Therefore, women must organize to fill in the gaps that legislation misses. To quote Critical Resistance and its site, focus on criminalization and incarceration often places women at further risk of both interpersonal and state violence, as well as of arrest, incarceration, and for immigrant women, deportation. Sex workers have organized to protect themselves from violence by circulating reference information, assaulters lists, organizing for decriminalization of sex work, and taking direct action to prevent sex trafficking. Community building is the first line of defense against gender violence that creates support networks and social structures that address and prevent further violence. This means safety for all. Each project that is mentioned within this piece emphasizes the importance of community as opposed to individual actions and responses. None of these projects would have succeeded without the collective sense of responsibility towards each other, quoting Law there. What this article teaches us about LGBT lives is that, although the article focused heavily on women, it would be safe to say that projects fighting against gender violence would embrace anyone who needed help to help them find safety. I would also like to bring to attention the fact that trans women face incredibly high rates of assault, interpersonal violence, and are murdered at incredibly high rates, even higher for trans women of color. They desperately need networks and communities to protect them from such gender violence. To tie this article in with class readings, I would say that Matthew Hines may have agreed that trans individuals would benefit exponentially from communities that embrace them and help them find safety without state-based policing that could target them more. I found one of the strengths of the article to be that it empowers women to work with other women to protect themselves and others from gender violence. It was really inspiring to read about some of the actions of the projects or groups. The only improvement I can make upon this article would be to be more inclusive of LGBT folks who may be facing just as much or more gender violence in their everyday lives. The discussion questions I would like to pose for our class are: first, what could you do to organize against gender violence in your community? And second, what are your opinions on abolition of prisons and decriminalization of sex work? Thank you so much for listening.